Russia is no longer necessary for the global economy. In fact, Russia President Vladimir Putin has been surfing the wave of his proclaimed energy superiority for the majority of the last year, particularly since his invasion of Ukraine, controlling the global economy to his will. Putin has stopped supplying natural gas to Europe because he fears that a cold and dark winter may cause people to turn against their governments and make it very difficult for Ukraine to gain more support.
They will depend on the unconditional compliance with the Russian security demands today and in the historical context.
Putin's misguided economic bets are only one more in a long line of errors in judgment that start with his undervaluing of the Ukrainian people. And his overestimation of the unity and resolve of the West. In this video, we will tell you why experts are imagining the world economy without Russia as a reaction to Russia's decision to turn energy supply into an economic weapon. So stay tuned and make sure to subscribe to our channel so you receive more of our interesting videos. Russia provided 83% of Europe's gas needs in 2021. Roughly half of Russia's government income comes from its annual exports of 200 billion cubic meters of piped gas and 7 million barrels of oil per day to other countries. Russia's commodity sales were even more significant in international supply chains. Europe was dependent on Russia for 46% of its total gas supply, and it was also equally dependent on Russia for other Russian goods, like metals and fertilizer. In the near future, Putin will definitely hurt the economies of the European Union's member states, but in the long term, Russia will not prevail to this energy war. Putin's move would only hasten the downfall of his country's energy sector and hasten the country's loss of its prized reputation as a global energy leader. Apart from the energy industry crisis in Russia, there is also a fall of the ruble and an increase in inflation fears. Just before the war, Russia's interest rate was 20%. In October of 2022, the central bank stopped lowering interest rates due to growing concerns about inflation. Of 2023, a greater decrease of the ruble is anticipated. War is becoming more expensive. Additionally, according to the Russian government, the reason industrial production wasn't decreasing in 2022 was because arms were produced and military spending was taken into account. Production of automobiles has almost been halved, since 300,000 persons between the age of 22 and 50 were recruited into the fight. The GDP has fallen by 0.5%. Russians are being politically accountable for Putin's inability to end the war by being penalized with economic stagnation. Europe has successfully convinced its neighbors that Moscow is an unreliable energy supplier through coercion. Consequently, in an effort to gradually wean itself off on Russian hydrocarbons, Europe is making more efforts, building infrastructure for liquefied natural gas, LNG, and a rapid pace in order to boost imports from Qatar, Australia, and the United States. A number of new LNG terminals, including one in Estonia, Latvia, and Finland, are in the process of opening, and more gas contracts, including those from Algeria and Norway, are being negotiated to boost supplies. Additionally, the EU is working more quickly to create renewable energy sources. Rather than succumbing to a frigid winter, Europe quickly secured other gas supplies by turning its attention to LNG worldwide. An estimated 55 billion cubic meters would be sent from the US. These different possibilities, when paired with increased availability from nuclear, renewable, and coal resources, have reduced Europe's dependence on Russian gas to 9% of the total gas imports. Furthermore, the exceptionally warm winter in Europe suggests that not only have the most terrifying scenarios been avoided, but that Europe's enormous reservoirs of stored energy have merely run empty and may continue until the next winter. Actually, from 2016 to 2021, Europeans used 17.5% of their prepaid gas over a period of a month and a half in the winter. As reported by the Wilson Center in the United States, the amount of gas consumed in the first winter following the war was reduced by 12.5%. Germany's storage tanks were almost full, suggesting that Europe won't probably need to import the same amount of gas. In the past, Russia supplied Germany with over 50% of its gas and over a third of its oil. Yet, Germany stopped importing Russian oil and Russia cut off the nation's gas supply recently. Germany has delayed plans to retire its 3 nuclear power reactors, restarted coal-fired power plants, and improved infrastructure to store natural gas bought from other countries, including the US and Norway, in an effort to find other energy sources. Germany's finance minister, Christian Lindner, claimed at the World Economic Forum, WEF, in Davos, Switzerland, that a new liquefied natural gas facility in Germany had been completed in a record time of roughly 8 months. He also stated that further infrastructure projects were in the works. Europe is moving much closer towards green energy. The consequences are profound. At least until 2024, Europe is now assured a sufficient supply of energy, which gives plenty of time for the full integration and operation of reasonably priced alternative energy sources inside the continent. This will assist fully and totally replace Russia's gas exports. It looks like Europe won't need Russian gas and oil in a very short while. The days of internationally priced energy as a result of Russian-driven supply squeezes are long gone. Believe it or not, China is moving further away from global LNG and towards local resources. It makes sense that the gas futures market is currently pricing gas to be cheap relative to pre-war prices for the time being, given the rapidly growing LNG supply. In reality, Russia's position in the oil market is becoming increasingly precarious. Russia sold oil to Turkey, China, and India, but not to Europe. All the same, these economies paid a lot less for the oil than they did for Brent crude, by more than $30 per barrel. Although oil from Russia is really sold for about $38, which is half the price of Brent crude oil, it is claimed to be sold for $50 per barrel. Putin, on the other hand, has the ability to hold on to power indefinitely and cannot choose to win back his former primary client. Instead, he is learning the hard way that switching unreliable commodity suppliers is far easier for customers than it is for suppliers to look for new opportunities. Putin's sway over oil is likewise waning. The days when oil prices rose 40% in 2 weeks due to fears that Putin might evacuate Russian oil resources are long gone. Actually, oil prices dropped when Putin suspended oil exports to countries that ratified the G7 price limitation on February 1st. This was the result of oil price cap being implemented. It's obvious that the globe isn't dependent on Russian oil anymore. The oil market is now more in favor of buyers than sellers due to an abundance of supply, which is more than enough to offset any prospective reductions in Russian crude production. This suggests that sanctions have prevented Russian energy companies from accessing Western finance and technology. The Russian economy is in immediate jeopardy because of this. Their current energy supplies are rapidly running out, and although they have uncharted territory in the Arctic, it would need enormous quantities of money and state-of-the-art Western technology to exploit it. Over the coming decades, Russia's energy output will progressively decrease if it does not have access to either. The rest of Russia's commodities cards are also empty. The idea of militarizing food products failed when even those who were supposed to support it revolted against Russia. In actuality, the combined output of new mines scheduled to begin operations over the next 2 years would offer more than enough supply to entirely replace Russian metals in global supply chains in a few essential metal sectors such as cobalt and nickel. Russia's decline is still ongoing. The world is beginning to understand that an economy without Russia is possible, and Russians are coming to terms with their newfound economic isolation. The fact that the end is in sight is in fact what matters, since Putin has permanently harmed Russia's strongest asset, commodities and energy. He will never again be able to cause such turmoil and disruption in the world economy. It is no longer feasible to pursue the conventional routes to economic recovery, which included increasing exports, expanding domestic manufacturing, and attracting more foreign investment. Other suggested actions, like set exchange rates or price caps, would make the problem worse. On the battlefield, the struggle is not yet over, but in the economic arena, victory is possible. Did you find this video interesting? If so, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.